So, Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote a book with Dan Sullivan, which I say with, right? Like it's Dan Sullivan's concepts more or less and Dr. Hardy's writing, I guess. Anyway, but the one of the book is called 10x is easier than 2x, and it's the idea that it's easier to make a large leap than it is to make a incremental gain because a large leap forces you to think in totally different ways about how you're going to accomplish a project, and therefore it gives you a different tool set, if you will, to work to achieve that. Um, so, what one of the things though when he was explaining it, that was kind of interesting, and when he was talking about this in a YouTube video, was he said that the 10x, usually when I hear 10x, I think, okay, 10x sales, 10x growth, or 10x profitability, something along those lines, right? So size of the company growing, right? Or size of revenue. And what Dr. Hardy said was that the first 10x element is qualitative. So it actually involves getting 10x better at what you do. And then the idea is that then the 10x quantity will then follow getting 10 times better. So that is an interesting distinction. A lot of times, and myself included, we focus on like tactics and tricks and whatever, right, to try to get to the next level. And whereas the approach, I guess, that Dr. Hardy's proposing says, get 10 times better at your craft. And that's where you're going to really move the needle. And it makes sense when you think about, the three big levers in business, right? So there's product, marketing, and sales. And those are in order of most to least powerful. So product is the most powerful because it makes marketing easier and sales easier, right? Marketing is more powerful than sales because it makes sales easier, right? And then sales is in a way is the least powerful. Now, probably some people would disagree with that synopsis, but in broad strokes, I think that's true. So if you take that that viewpoint that quality of product trumps sales and marketing for the growth of your company, then I think what Dr. Hardy is saying here makes a lot of sense because if your company gets 10 times better at what it does, chances are that you now have a genuine competitive advantage compared to, the other people in your industry. And so that's an interesting perspective, and I like it. In some ways, it feels like it puts less emphasis on things that are hard to control, and more emphasis on things that are under our control, right? So, getting, sometimes depending on market conditions and what type of industry you're in and stuff like that, 10xing the size of your company, the size of your revenue, on the face of it seems virtually impossible, at least in the like very short term, right? Like over time, okay, sure, right? But in the short term, it can look like a mammoth task that is not even all that doable. But becoming 10 times better at your craft, I mean, okay, that's pretty hard, right? 10 times better, like if you're pretty good already, being 10 times better, like that's really, really good, right? So maybe that's also a little bit unrealistic, a little unachievable in some ways, but it does put the focus on, in a sense, the input rather than the output, right? So it comes down to this idea of like, how are you improving the product in your business and not just the revenue of your business. So I think that's an important distinction. I'm trying to remember the title of the book now. There's a book that talks a lot about inputs versus outputs, essentially, and how being really clear about the distinction on those two things can be really helpful. But that may be a video for another day.